We go live now to the U.S. for more from journalist Charlie McGrath with Wide Awake News. Thanks for joining us here. So given John Brennan's previous experience as a counterterror advisor, what do you think we can expect from his tenure as CIA director?
More of the same. I mean, as your report indicated, he is not only supportive of the drone program, he's the architect of the drone program, as well as loving things such as rendition. So what we can expect, I think, with John Brennan is absolutely more the same, more blood being spilt on foreign soil for the name of spreading so-called democracy.
Now, Washington says it can't order the killing of a U.S. citizen not engaged in combat on American soil, but that's kind of a big gray area, isn't it? How broad is that definition?
Very broad. I mean, as you said, what does it? What is it? How do you have to quantify what combat is? I mean, if I go out on my radio program nightly and I talk against American policy, or I talk about the never-ending war that we seem to be mired in around this planet, is that giving aid and comfort to the enemy? I know that sounds far-fetched, but we've seen things such as the Mayak report come out saying Ron Paul supporters could be potential domestic terrorists, and many other things that fall into that category, and many other things that we know the Department of Homeland Security and other agencies are tracking. I mean, even just words we use during an interview. If the right word pops up, it is tucked away so it could be reviewed later. So, I think it's a real gray area is what is combat and what isn't.
But just to play devil's advocate here, let's say we are potentially in, say, another 9/11 situation. You have a plane that you know is under hijack that is going for a clear target, say the Pentagon or the White House or the Capitol building. Could that be a place where it could be permissible to use a drone if one's available to take it out before it does more damage?
Well, yeah, I mean, obviously that would make sense in a scenario like that. If we could have done that before 9/11, I'm more than sure that would have happened. But it isn't about the obscure coincidence or the obscure examples or the obscure scenarios, right? I mean, and that's always the argument we get from our so-called leadership. They give us these scenarios that are, these 1 in a million type things. What we need to be concerned about is the fact that the government, our government, the United States of America, has said that we could potentially be having 30,000 drones flying around this country in the next several years. And their policies, their actions and their policies over the last the last decade, rather, has shown that it is growing more and more into a police state, and more people in this country are falling into the so-called belligerent actor category.
Now, the officials are claiming that drones cause minimum collateral damage. Is there evidence so far to back that up, or to the contrary?
I would have to say to the contrary, but it's so vague, the news that we get, or so minimal, the news that we get. But every time the drone isn't going out there and using a ball-peen hammer to take out a bad guy. I mean, it's sending downrange a $70,000 Hellfire missile. And we know that there's been, a very large percentage of civilians killed, a higher percentage of civilians, certainly, than these so-called high-value targets.
Now, drone strikes targeted killings not sanctioned by international law up to this point. So how transparent are they, and is there any way to properly investigate or vet them when a civilian is killed, especially in the case that we've had recently of civilians being killed in Pakistan, and no one's quite sure, everyone's pointing fingers, Pakistan saying it's a U.S. drone and vice versa?
Yeah, so the verification of what the missions are and who is being killed and the numbers of people being killed. Obviously, I mean, we can look at this expansion of the drone program over the last several years, and it's usually we find out how heinous and how barbarous these attacks end up being, but we usually find out about it not from the government or not from an official agency, but it's usually either a news agency or the people themselves begging for this kind of activity to stop.
Now, finally, the U.S. has been leading, so to speak, the drone warfare program worldwide, but there's other countries and, of course, other militaries out there that will be using them potentially. Do other countries have a chance of catching up? Are we on the verge of seeing kind of like a drone gap, or even like a drone race, like the arms race in the 80s and 90s?
That's a great question. The drone races. You know what? Here's the deal. If you're a nation that wants to sit 6,000 miles away from a country you're trying to destabilize, and you want to do it in the most anesthetic way possible, at least for the people of the United States, we look at it and pretend that there's no blood being spent or spilled. So if you're a nation that is into spreading your brand of politics around the world and destabilizing governments, and you're not up on the drones, you better join the drone race.
All right. Charlie McGrath from Right Awake News, thanks very much for that time.
Thank you.